The United States and Iran appear to be edging closer to an agreement over the future of the Strait of Hormuz, with Tehran saying it has reached key understandings with Oman on a new shipping route. Even as diplomacy gains momentum, Iran is warning Gulf states against supporting any renewed US military action, while Yemen's Houthi movement continues attacks on Saudi oil tankers in the Red Sea. Iran says it has agreed with Oman on the geographical route for ships transiting the Strait of Hormuz, with a joint statement between the two countries now in its final drafting stage. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Ismail Baghai said the geographical coordinates of the proposed shipping route had been agreed upon and that if no third party obstructed the process, a joint statement outlining the key points of agreement would soon be released. According to Iran's state-run IRNA news agency, Baghai said negotiations with Oman were progressing steadily but stressed that any agreement would not automatically make the Strait of Hormuz safe for international shipping. He said the United States remained the main source of instability because of what Tehran described as its continued naval blockade and other aggressive actions against Iran. Since imposing its own navigation rules in the strait, Iran has required vessels to follow a route hugging its coastline. Many ships have instead continued using the southern route near Oman, with some coming under attack during the conflict. Iran says the proposed arrangement would see commercial vessels pass through Iranian territorial waters on both inbound and outbound journeys. Deputy Foreign Minister Kazem Gharibabadi said talks with Oman had reached fundamental understandings on the mapping of maritime traffic routes and that negotiations were close to being finalized. However, regional sources told Reuters that key issues remain unresolved, particularly how control of the waterway would be defined. According to the report, Gulf states want any ship inspections to be supervised by regional countries rather than Iran alone, while any transit fee should remain voluntary. A senior Iranian source said the current draft agreement would give Tehran authority over ships entering the Gulf, with negotiations continuing over Iran's role regarding outbound vessels. US President Donald Trump said negotiations with Iran had continued throughout Tuesday and described the discussions as positive. Speaking to Fox News, Trump claimed there had been already talks with Tehran and said the Strait of Hormuz would reopen very soon. He also warned that if negotiations collapse again, the United States would respond with heavy military action against Iran.
Iran, as an example, will never have a nuclear weapon. They already can't, but it's going to be formal. The strait's going to be open very soon, or they're going to get hit very hard, and then the strait's going to be open. And we were going to a tremendous attack, the biggest since World War II. And they called me and said, very politely, please, can we talk? Can we talk? They didn't want. And I said, yes, we can talk. Let's get it done. Finally, let's get it done. This should have been done by other presidents for 50 years. You know, you keep hearing 47, but that's been for 3 years now. It's been over 50 years. Other presidents or other countries should have been able to do this. And I did something that I had to do, because if they had a nuclear weapon, this whole world would be a different place.
Despite those remarks, Tehran has continued to insist that any reopening of the waterway depends on Washington ending what Iran describes as its naval blockade of Iranian ports. The proposed arrangement would represent one of the most significant concessions discussed during the conflict, potentially giving Iran a central role in managing commercial traffic through one of the world's most strategically important energy corridors. Meanwhile, Reuters reported that Iran has warned several Gulf countries that any renewed American attack on Iranian territory would trigger retaliation against critical energy infrastructure across the region. According to the report, the warning was delivered through a series of high-level diplomatic contacts after President Trump threatened to target Iran's energy infrastructure late last month. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi reportedly spoke with his counterparts in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Turkey, as well as a senior Pakistani official. During those conversations, Araghchi urged Gulf states to use their influence with Washington to prevent further military escalation. According to Reuters, he warned that any new attack on Iran would lead to strikes on US assets and energy facilities across the Gulf. The report also said Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman later spoke with President Trump, urging him to delay military action, return to negotiations, and pursue a diplomatic settlement. Meanwhile, Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthi movement says it carried out 2 more attacks on Saudi oil tankers. Houthi military spokesperson Yahya Sari claimed the group targeted the Saudi tanker Wafa in the northern Red Sea near Yanbu using ballistic missiles. In a separate statement, he also claimed responsibility for striking another Saudi tanker Daisy in the Gulf of Aden.
كانت القوات المسلحة اليمنية بفضل الله من استهداف سفينة وفاء النفطية السعودية شمالي البحر الأحمر أمام منطقة ينبع، وذلك بعدد من الصواريخ البالستية، وكانت الإصابة دقيقة بفضل الله.
If confirmed, the latest attacks could bring the total number of Saudi vessels targeted since the start of the Houthi maritime blockade to 9. Saudi authorities have not commented on the claims. Oil prices initially rose following news of the latest Houthi attacks before edging lower later in the session, as markets focused on signs that negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz were continuing. While negotiations over the future of the Strait of Hormuz appear to be advancing, major questions remain over who will ultimately control one of the world's most important shipping lanes. At the same time, continued Houthi attacks in the Red Sea and Iranian warnings to Gulf states underscore that the wider regional conflict remains far from resolve.